My name is Emily McAvoy, and I'm the Teen Services Coordinator for St. Louis County Library. I would like to welcome you to this live event with authors Sandhya Menon and Evelyn Skye to talk about their new book, 3 Kisses, 1 Midnight. This event is part of Teentober, which happens every October at the library and focuses on celebrating programming for our teen patrons. There's still a few events happening, so be sure to check out the events page at slcl.org and search Teentober to register. Before we talk with our authors, I would also like to mention that the first in-person St. Louis Teen Book Festival will be happening on Saturday, December 3rd at Ladue Horton Watkins High School from 1 o'clock to 5 p.m. There will be author panels and a book signing. Some of the authors attending will be Adrienne Young, Dustin Tao, Jas Hammonds, Kira Cass, and Jenna Evans Welch, along with Ryan LaSala and many more. You can find a full list of authors and more information at slcl.org under the Teens tab. Now I will turn it over to Stephanie Skees, the Director of Events and Curated Collections for The Novel Neighbor. Stephanie?
Hello. Oh my goodness. Good evening. Hi, Evelyn. Hi, Sandhya.
Hi.
How are you this evening?
Really great. Good. Yeah, pretty good. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having us.
Yes, we're all having a great Monday. We're missing Roshani, but that's okay. We're very excited. I don't know if we can say out loud what Roshani's doing, but she's doing something awesome.
So, very special. Yeah, very super special, and she's way cooler than me and Sandhya.
No, that's not true. This is just as cool.
That's true. Thank you so much.
There you go.
This is just as cool. Well, I'm so excited. You're both New York Times bestselling authors. Oh no, I lost both of you.
Oh, where did we go?
Oh, I don't know. I'm glad you're here. I was like, you're both incredible New York Times bestselling authors. You paired up, both of you, with Roshani, and you created this magical book for us. I'm holding up the cover jacket without the book in it because I think everyone also needs to know how beautiful she is underneath.
They did such a good job. Oh my gosh, they really did.
Did y'all know they were going to do this?
There were talks. We didn't know exactly what they were going to do, I think, right, Evelyn?
Yeah, I mean, we knew that they showed us kind of the sketches ahead of time, but we didn't know how big it was going to be and that was going to look that good. So I think all of us, when we got it, we were stunned. I mean, like Sandhya and I and Roshani, we've all published a lot of books, but like, I don't know, this is honestly like my prettiest book, my prettiest naked book.
Right. Totally.
Oh my goodness, yes. I was like, I love when we get them because we have arcs often and you never know what the finalized copy is going to be like. And we had a moment like a couple months ago where we like saw somebody have like the dust jacket off of a book and we thought that there was like some kind of like exclusive thing, and the publicist was like, no guys, just like take the dust jacket off. And ever since then we've learned our lesson to like underneath where we're like, what little treasure have they given us?
Yeah, this is my only book that has like something like that to that extent under the cover. So I was just like blown away. I was like, this is what like fantasy authors get. This is amazing. Like, I know this is complete fantasy, but like, you know, we're dipping our toe there. So it was really cool for me to see that as a rom-com author.
And I think it's just kind of perfectly, it's that whimsical kind of magic that 3 Kisses has. And we just love our publisher. The book itself was just such a joy to write.
Yes.
Okay. That's the perfect. Let's talk about the book. If someone doesn't know what this book is yet, I don't know who wants to answer this. It's up to either of you. Who wants to talk about like kind of the overall premise of the book?
I can do that. I mean, basically it is 3 best friends who find a love potion recipe that may or may not work. And if it does work, they need to be kissed or kiss their love interest, I guess, by midnight. Some of them may have gotten wrong who their love interest is supposed to be, but it only the love potion will only work if that person already is interested. But so maybe you're a little shy, you know, what happens? You think, oh, they're just being nice to me. They don't actually like me, even though I've been in love with them forever. So it's about their Halloween adventures the night before Halloween. And There's a big masquerade party and all sorts of hijinks ensue. There's a really cute little black cat named Igor. There's the mayor and the biology teacher, who I saw someone in a review describe as like gay fairy godmother characters. They're just so amazing. They're so happy. And they're like, our characters look up to them as the epitome of what a wonderful supportive relationship can be like. And the characters are so different. Anyway, that was a terrible elevator pitch. I'm sorry. I just get so excited about the book. I start rambling.
It was great.
Perfect. Yeah, that was a perfect pitch. And I really appreciate the element, and Sandhya, I'm going to ask you a question here in a second, but I really did appreciate the element of like, you very quickly orient us in the book that this love potion is consensual. We can't just make anybody fall in love with us. The pieces have to be laid there. It kind of just like helps push everybody off the edge a little bit, or maybe overcome some of our fears, or maybe see something in somebody that we potentially hadn't seen before. So I loved that. Sandhya, do you want to talk about, there's 3 best friends, as we just discussed. Did each of you write one of them specifically? Are you able to say about who wrote what? Or are you secretive about who wrote who? Okay.
The great thing about this book was that each of us like came up with our characters. So Rosh had Ani, I had True, and Evelyn had Ash. So like right from the beginning, like we kind of slotted into who we wanted to write. So there was like no, struggle over who's going to write what. It was just like very clear from the beginning. And I wanted to write the skeptic, and Evelyn wanted to write this soft boy, artistic boy character, and then Rosh wanted to write Ani, who's like the glamorous, like magic, one who believes in magic. And so it came together just so beautifully because we all, we had Google Docs going, which Evelyn was always like the one to organize us, and we could not have done this without Evelyn's like extra professional thing that she did. It was amazing. But we also had like our little group chat going, so we would say like, would Ash say this, or how should I phrase this, or we'd go in and help the other person tweak like the dialogue in their parts. But other than that, everybody just kind of had free reign to do whatever they wanted in their part of the book. And of course, it's like, it's not an anthology, it's one story, so we threaded it all together. But yeah, we had so much fun, and like it really felt to me like I got to know these other characters as if they were real people. Like I always feel like that about my own characters, but this was such a joy because I also felt like Ash and Ani just like were so real by the time we were done even discussing, even before we finished writing it.
Yeah, it was really interesting, like just to play off of that, like we started off talking about like what do we want the plot to be, and then like Sandhya was saying, the characters. And by the time we were done, so like throughout the book they have these text conversations, like a group text with the 3 of them, and so whichever author was kind of in charge of that section would write the conversation. And of course, then the other authors could come in and like tweak the voice, like, oh, maybe like Ash would make this joke instead. But it's like Sandhya said, we got to know the characters so well that we didn't actually have to change very much. It was really neat. Like Sandhya got Ash's voice perfectly, and like, like I got Oni pretty well. And it was, it was so fun.
That so comes across too, like as a reader, everything feels, I suspected that each of you potentially owned a character, but only just out of like, how would you get this book written? Like thought process behind that in interviews I've heard other authors do, not out of anything that was like, the dialogue was so seamless. I felt like I had such a good idea of who each of our characters were, how they fit into the story, what we were ultimately working towards with each of them. So it just shows how well you all flowed together. I do want to know, to back up a little bit, and this might be something that both of you, I think probably both of you are going to want to answer, but what was it like? How did this come about? When did I know you put in the like afterward that you kind of said that there was this idea brewing and everybody got excited and totally like led you on, but like where did this idea first originate from?
Evelyn, you should totally talk about that because this was all Evelyn's like idea.
Okay,
Firstly,
I
I should
wondered if
say.
there was like somebody.
Yeah.
I'm kind of like, I don't want to just say
Sometimes.
that because it was really such a collaborative thing. Well, I had just signed on to Tao Lei, who is also Sandhya and Roshani's agent. I was agented by somebody else before that. And so when I joined up with Tao, this idea just came to me and I was just like, oh my gosh, well, Roshani and Sandhya are now working with the same agent that would make the behind the scenes negotiating so much easier. And, we're all friends, the three of us, but also like such fans of each other's work. And it just seemed like it would be such a dream project if we could make this story happen. And so we thought, well, what if we do some kind of holiday centered three best friends story that's just happy? Because the other thing is, we came up with this idea at the very beginning of the pandemic, and the world was like so doom and gloom and everyone's so stressed out. And we were like, you know what? We would just really want something joyful in the world. And so I pitched it to them and they were both like on board right away, which I was super excited about because honestly, without Roshani and Sandhya, this wouldn't have worked. I was like, it's either us three or no one. Like, otherwise this project will die. So yeah, it was great. And then we just started riffing off each other. And like, I had originally thought like, I don't know, Valentine's Day or Christmas. And I think it was Rosh, maybe, correct me if I'm wrong, Sandhya, who said like, what about Halloween? Because Halloween, everything's so scary. Like, why don't we have like a really sweet story about friendship and love for Halloween? And so it's like brilliant. So we kind of just went with it. And yeah, then we did video chats, kind of like this, like three-way video chats with WhatsApp all the time. And we would just throw ideas out there. And there was a lot of laughing, a lot of interruption by the pets. Like Teddy, Roshni's cat, was always crawling into her lap or whatever. And then Sandhya always had her dogs. And
yeah. It's kind of sad that like collaboration piece is over now. Like, we're still doing, events and stuff, but like that we had truly, I think we said it so many times, like this was like probably the most fun book each of us has ever worked on because, writing is such a solitary thing. Usually, like, you don't get other people to laugh at your jokes or bounce ideas off of. And that's what we were like each other's cheering squad. And it was so much fun to do this and like build this world out of nothing. And it's like the perfect amount of, like Evelyn said, like magical and sweet and Halloweeny. It's just all like the things that make us want to squeal. And we just put it all into this book.
1,000%. I was wondering, it makes sense that you did this at the beginning of COVID. Because otherwise I was like, Sandhya, are you the reason that we got a romance out of this? Like, our romance author over here.
No, we were all on board for that. Like, right from the start, we were like, this is going to be like a rom-com. We wanted that kind of sweet, happy, like no masks except for masquerade ball masks kind of energy.
Thank you for that.
And honestly, I think that Roshani and I were kind of happy to have a break from creating the big magical worlds that we usually do in our fantasy books that we had written before. So it was so lovely. It was so fun to get to like exercise our world building skills in just the real world with just that hint of magic, and then tap into Sandhya's expertise with rom-com. Like she was so good with pointing out like, oh, we need a little more tension here, So it was, all around just so fun. And I think this is also interesting. Our characters, I feel, and I don't know, Sandhya, if you feel this way, they kind of reflect our personalities, I think, too, as writers. And so we are so complementary as authors. Like we all have different strengths and personalities. And I feel like that came through in our characters as well.
Definitely, for sure. Yeah, that's what, like, it just felt like this whole book writing process felt really magical and like it just all worked. It was so cool to see that because, I've heard some like scary stories about when you work with somebody, it's different than, if you read their book, because people, when they're writing, are totally different, right? So yeah, it was kind of a scary thing, but as soon as Evelyn sent that like first message and we were all gushing, it was just like, oh yeah, this is going to be great.
It was honestly so ridiculously easy, right? It almost felt like the book just wrote itself. Like our characters, they all matched up perfectly. It was so obvious from the start, like that which order the character story should fall into, just because of their personalities. Like Oni just she bursts onto the scene, right? So it was so obvious that she had to start the story, and she was the ringleader of the characters. But I think also like just plot wise too, and craft if we're talking about writing craft, like the arc of the story, our characters fell exactly into the right places as well. Like Ash, his story's a little quieter, so it fit in the middle. And it's like you've got like the two bigger personalities of Oni and True at the beginning and the end. And so it really was magic. I know we keep saying that, but it's Halloween magic.
I also think this book was like had the least editorial comments of any of my books that I've written, which I think like it just flowed out really well.
Yeah, it really did just kind of come out. Like, I hate to say perfect, but like I love this book so much, and we changed so little.
Yeah.
So fun. That's so fun. It doesn't surprise me at all. I totally agree that like the flow of them, they're so complementary to each other. I want to go back to something that you kind of briefly said, because I was really curious about this. And whoever wants to start first can, but it's a question really for both of you to answer separately of what was it like to write this in comparison to your normal writing process? Aside from like the fact that it's not usually a collaborative process, like what was it like for you to, Evelyn, to pull out of like fantasy universes over here, without like as much world building as you might do. And Sandhya, like, what was it like for you? You've definitely written romance before, but was there something separate about this? If that makes sense, whoever wants to start first, but.
Yeah, I'm happy to start. Like for me, it was really relaxing because, for my other two series, The Crown's Game and Circle of Shadows, there's so much world building. They're true fantasy books. And as much as I love big magic, the rules of magic also make me crazy because, there's like, you're writing these magic systems and this works this way and this works this way. And then your editor's like, well, what about this massive hole over here? And you're like, okay, no problem. I'm going to plug it in by putting this, this, and this. She's like, great. So now you've opened up these holes here and here. And then how about this part too? I'm just like, oh my God. And so this book, it was just like, oh, it was so easy because we figured out how the love potion worked from the very beginning, and those rules were so simple, in terms of like in comparison to like, I don't know, my other Circle of Shadows was basically fighting ninjas who turned into animals. So it's just like very, very different. So that was great. The other thing I think that was hugely different was because we each took on one character, but there were three of us, we only had to write a third of a book. So it was so much better that way. Like I think that's part of the reason the process went so fast, because each of us, like, we're experienced writers, so we can crank out of a third of a book really quickly.
Yeah. That is so true. I was going to say that too. I was like, I don't know if I should say this, but I did really enjoy writing a third of a book. Yeah. But also I have to say, it was kind of like reading my favorite authors' like books in progress, which was really cool for me. Like, oh, this is what, their first draft, their second draft, their third draft looks like. And these are the questions they ask and stuff. So it was really edifying for me as a writer. Like I said before, it's such a solitary craft that unless you're seeking out a lot of like craft books and things like that, it's easy to kind of get into your own space and your own process and forget that other people do it different ways. So that was really fun. And yeah, for me, like most of my books have been just contemporary, although I do have the Rosetta Academy series, which is kind of like, there's like a little hint of, is it magic or is it not? But this was much more magical. And I have to say, like, I so enjoyed the setting. Like, these two are so good with setting. And so they really made me up my game for my piece, because at first, like, my part had very little setting. And so I had to go in and I was like, oh, I gotta match the rest of the book here. So I had to go in and work on setting, but it was really fun. And it was really cool to see how fantasy authors work on setting. It's just so beautiful. And it feels like alchemy almost, how it just comes together, how their brains work with that. It's so cool.
That's really interesting to hear. Yeah, I thought of that the whole entire time that I was reading it, where I was just like, oh, what was going on in everyone's brains? How did this work? And like, what did this like come out of like, I just imagined it being, I know that you all keep saying this too, and I keep saying this, of like, it just comes across like it was such a magical, fun experience. So it's really great to hear that was true. I mean, you can tell us if it wasn't, I guess, once I say that out loud, but no, I totally see that all. It makes sense. I do want to know if each of you, in your parts, we know Evelyn was our Google Doc queen over here. Are you, your general writing style, are you a plotter or a pantser? And if that impacted writing, I know you only had to write a third, like you said. Everyone's pretty experienced. It seems like it went by pretty quickly for everyone. But in general, what is your writing style? And did you like do that for this, or did this change it at all?
I mean, I think for this one we had to plot just because we had 3 different pieces and they had to work together. So we had the overall thing already figured out before we started writing. And the tricky thing was, I think we had a little bit of trouble with the timeline. So the initial idea was that the story would go for, like, throughout the entire night. So Oni's story would start first, and then it would end at a certain time, and then Ash's story would start, and then that would end, and then we'd start with True, and the True would end the night. And what ended up happening was the stories kind of overlapped, just because once we started writing, that's kind of when the pantsing part comes in. Like, so the plotters are the outliners, the pantsers are the ones for people who fly by the seat of their pants, and you kind of just see whatever happens with the story. But I think all of us, like with this one, we had the general idea of where the story needed to go, but we also let things kind of happen organically. And so I remember when we kind of all finished our first drafts, and Oni's story went until like 11 something p.m. And we're like, wait a second, the book is supposed to end at midnight. So that was like parts, like one of the like trickier parts of editing the book. But other than that, yeah, we had it all plotted out. But for me, normally I used to be a pantser. And so my first 3 books were completely I just wrote and I would see what happened. I might sometimes sort of know how I wanted to end. The Crowns Game, I definitely knew how I wanted it to end. Like, I think I knew exactly what that final chapter was before I wrote the book. But other than that, everything in the middle, I was like, all right, we've got point A and point B, and some stuff is going to happen in 400 pages in between. But that got me actually in a lot of like trouble in terms of I had to throw away so many entire manuscripts because I kind of just like wrote something and went totally in the wrong direction. And so by the time I got to my 4th book, my editor was kind of gently suggesting that maybe I try outlining. So I'm a pretty dedicated outliner now. And I think it's really helpful to me to not have to create the world and the story at the same time that I'm doing the writing. So it saves me time.
Yeah, that's definitely what I was going to say is like I used to be a pantser until I got published and I had like contracts and deadlines. And then I was like, oh my gosh, I really do not have time to just like do whatever I want in the middle. So because I was totally like that, point A and point B, how do I'm just going to write stuff and see what happens. But yeah, we plotted this book really tightly, except for the timeline thing, which we did in edits. But that's how I do all of my books too. I find that it's really helpful for me, but I also leave enough room to kind of, like Evelyn was saying, have fun with it too, because I don't like being too rigid with it, because I think that takes the fun away of writing, of like making stuff up on the fly. So I do outline as well, just like Evelyn. I don't know if, do you think there are like published authors who have written like 10 books and just pants? Evelyn, like that would be crazy to me. I can't imagine it.
I mean, maybe some of the notorious authors out there who take forever to write, I'm going to blame that. Maybe that's the problem.
That's true. Yeah, they're not making their deadlines. That's what I say to make myself feel better.
Yeah, exactly.
That's exactly what we can say for tonight. That's no other answer exists for sure. I know. I was trying to think. We've asked that question of a lot of authors, and I think there's a couple. That I know that said that they're pantsers and they still write one a year. And I just like can't even.
That's incredible.
But I
I'm
can't
really impressed
with writing it. So
yeah, hats off to them, man. I could never do that.
Okay, let's talk about our nuggets of characters. They're so great. So Evelyn, you wrote Ash, right?
Yeah, I was gonna ask, can you guess? Like, is it obvious to you who wrote which ones? Because I have my friends have read my books, and so like for them, I said, okay, let's see if you're really my true friends. So I want you to read this book, and then I want you to guess which one's my character. And if you guess wrong, then we're no longer friends.
Yeah. Did anyone get kicked out of the friendship?
No, they all figured it out like within like the first 2 sentences.
Those are some true friends.
Yes, and then, well, I mean, then it's like kind of obvious because then there's a detail later on with a character with a lung transplant, and my husband's had a lung transplant. So if any of my friends don't know that about me, well, then they are definitely not my friends.
Yeah, that's pretty tough. Yeah, no, that's I did not know that, but I have read everyone's books, and so I feel like as a bookseller advantage, I knew like enough to piece together who I thought was each other. Um which I think, yeah, because you're Ash and Sandhya, you're True, right?
Yeah.
Down. I don't actually know if I'm down on your screen. I realized that pretty much the grandma pointed the right thing. Okay, so let's talk about. Well, we'll go in order of the book. So let's talk about our sweet. Well, okay. Does anybody? I know we don't have Roshani here, but I would hate to skip over Oni or Oni.
Yeah, we're just gonna make up stuff for her.
Yeah,
So yeah.
Back and correct us.
Yes.
So let's talk about Oni. What do you feel like Roshani put in of herself, or like what did you all experience with her writing that before I get into each of your like individual ones that you wrote?
I think Oni and Rosh both have this like big personality where as soon as they walk into the room, everyone looks at them. It's one of my favorite things about her. She just has this. She's this tiny person, but she has this huge commanding personality. And though sometimes, like in our group chats or video calls, as soon as she starts talking, there's just something very, I don't know, entrancing about her. You just listen to her, and that came through so clearly with Oni. And she's just very much like, and I believe in this magic spell, and this is from my grandmother. And also, we've got this tarot card, and of course, I believe in the stars. And how could you not believe in the stars? But also, I love that her character, she believes in these magical things, and yet she refuses the label that some people put on her for being ditzy, for believing in things like astrology, because she's really good at science. And it's like, these are not mutually exclusive. And so, I don't know, I feel like there's so much of just raw Roshani in that character. And I don't know if that Roshaniness comes through necessarily in all her other books always, but definitely like the Rosh that I know is very much inside of Oni.
Yeah, plus she's just so glamorous. Like Oni is so glamorous, and so is Rosh. Like if you don't follow her on Instagram, like, I mean, what are you doing? But, like it's just like a gorgeous picture after gorgeous picture, and that's exactly what I pictured as the Diamante's like estate when she wrote it, was just this like glamorous, like amazing dark fae kind of like vibe. It's just so beautiful.
Yeah, that totally was what I pictured, Rose. I like totally felt the same way where I was like, okay, I don't know Roshani personally, but this seems like this is what we get from her out in the world too, in so many ways. Okay, yeah, she's such a great character. And hers takes a very fun turn.
Yes.
I paused there to decide if that was like a spoiler or not. I don't think it's
No.
So, and then Evelyn, we have Ash, who is just our sweet little tender nugget.
Yeah, he's our soft, quiet boy. He's so shy.
All of our soft, quiet, shy boy who just, you want the best for him and his love interest.
Yeah, Ash, he just kind of came fully formed to me, this does not always happen to me. I mean, character usually comes first for me in a story, and then the world building and the plot come later. Plots always last for me, that's like the legacy of my pantsing, is that the plot is like, we'll figure that out. But yeah, I don't know. Ash just kind of appeared, and I do have a soft spot for vulnerable boys. You see that in a lot of my other books too. That's how the love interests often are. They have some kind of like they can be big and strong, and yet there's still something very flawed about them, or very, I don't know, very tender. But Ash is just all tenderness, and that was fun and a little bit different for me to write. And I had recently been to Venice, and so that's why I was kind of like, oh, I want to do the whole mask thing. We'd been into an actual artist workshop where he was still making the masks in the traditional way. So that's kind of where that inspiration came from. And then Ash's love interest, Cassidy, is his neighbor, and he's so sweet. Like, he literally can't talk whenever she's around, and she's like on the other side of the fence. He's like, oh, but like in a totally non-creepy way. But Yeah, Ash. I just love him. He's like the sweet boy that you're like, you are so big and tall, and why do the rest of us have to take care of you?
Yeah.
But you sometimes you just have those friends where you want to take care of them. Like I have a really good friend who's like 12 years older than me, but somehow I always feel like he has that like sweet personality where you're like, how can I help you?
Oh, that's so sweet.
So taken care of by Oni and True. And I just need you to know that, like, I don't know why. I really just like latched on of like when he remembers, and now I actually don't remember which soft drink it is, but when he knows what soft drink she wants from the garage, I was like, oh, he's so observant. He's so
It's the little details like that that just make you love Ash so much.
oh my gosh. And then we get True, who is just what better way to end this book to bring us to like our last kiss of the midnights. Where did True come from? What was she inspired by? How did we get to have such an incredible character?
True. Oh, what a handful. She was definitely a handful to write too. Yeah. So I knew that when Rosh came up with Oni first. And so when I saw that there's going to be like this believer, this mystic, there had to be a foil to the mystic. And I was like, okay, I'm going to write the skeptic. So I've written, pretty logical girls before. And so I felt like this was familiar territory. But True was like really, she was much more, I guess, like feisty and kind of spiky than I was expecting when she started just coming out with her stuff. And I was like, oh, okay, I see you. So it was really fun to write a character that was just so diametrically opposed to both Oni and Ash. And she was like, this, like, she and I don't think this is a spoiler, but she and Ash are related and they could not be more different. Like, she feels very protective of Ash, as we all do. And she loves Oni, even though she like does not understand Oni at all. And this is a spoiler, so I'm not going to say anything, but there's something that Oni tells her that ends up becoming like prophetically true. And so True has like this reckoning of like, hey, maybe the world isn't as black and white, as binary as I was thinking it was in terms of magic or not magic. And so it was really fun to write that arc of like a skeptic who kind of like softens a little bit. She's still a skeptic at the end, but she's like softening, and you see a lot of stuff happening to her that she's having trouble balancing like science and the laws of physics with the things that she is seeing. And that was really fun to write.
Totally. Yes, we won't spoil that, but it is what a great moment for all of us. And I think that was what was really like just so wonderful about True, is that like you gave us this character that is so skeptical and not like the other two that, hers is the third story, like we said. So we have these other two characters and they all are kind of part of this magical element, or like are not as skeptical. And then we get to her, but she's such a good friend to them. Like she is so not about this, and also so much a part of the coven, which is what they call themselves. And like she's so supportive and loving, like of Ash and Oni. But so I just thought it was like really amazing how you did that, where you gave us this proudly skeptical, not about it person, and then like, but still, it's not like she's like a foil to them specifically as people.
Right. Yeah, I definitely didn't want to go to like a skeptic who's just, I think we all know that skeptic who's just a giant ass, and you're like, like, okay, we get it. You don't, you're a science person. Like, I really didn't want her to feel like that. So she's very loving towards her friends. It's just that, she believes a different thing than they do.
And I really love that. I feel like these three are such a good model for friendship, They're just very much, they support each other in who each of their friends is, just as they are. And yet they are so cohesive together. And I wish that for everybody, that you could find your people and you don't have to all be the same kind of people, but it just makes for such an interesting and rich friendship.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, and I was actually wondering about this of like, I could not agree with you more. I think there's such a great model for like, I think also something that I've definitely heard other people talk about this, but I used to talk about a bunch of like groups of threes can be hard because there's an odd person out potentially in the scenario. But there's such a great group of three friends. Their friendship is portrayed in such a way that like I would have loved to have as a teenager reading about it. And so it felt like that was important to you all to include, like, not just from a like, at least it came across as like deeper than just like, I know that you've said you wanted to write like a fun book and like the time period in which we were writing this and kind of give us this escape and just like fun time around Halloween. But was it important to you? Were there conversations that you all had about like what types of friendship you wanted to portray and like why it was important of like, we don't really have like a lot of conflict that comes up in this book. Between them at least. There's conflict in other things, sure, but like it's not like you haven't written us a book where like at some point everyone has like a big like fight and we go where like everybody's not talking to each other for a while. Was that like a choice that you all made or just let's talk a little bit more about that friendship element?
I don't know that it was a conscious choice. I think that it came out very organically, just the way that the three of us worked together. And I think that that's where our friendship kind of just bled into the fictional friendship, because the three of us are also very different. And yet we worked really well together and we didn't fight ever during this book. And it was anytime that there was like, oh, somebody might want to go this way, it was kind of like, oh yeah, we could work with that. Or like, how do we put this together? Like it wasn't even like negotiation. I don't know I can't quite think of the right word, but I think that was kind of part of it. I think, I mean, I like to pretend that we had some grand plan. I don't know, maybe Sandhya did. Maybe I was like not privy to the grand plan.
No, there was no grand plan, Evelyn.
I would really love the answer just be like, sorry, the three of us are perfect in friendship. You picked
Oh yeah, I think when we were talking, we just like from the beginning we were just like, these three love each other and these are their dynamics. And it never even entered like an idea never entered that there should be a friendship like breakup or anything like that. It was always like a different conflict, so we wanted that to be like the anchor of the story where people could go in and just feel like a warm blanket of friendship throughout the whole book. So you never had that, oh my God, they're not talking to each other, so we just wanted it to be like more gentle and like easy, I guess, that friendship. Right? Would you say that's true, Evelyn?
Yeah, I think that's a warm blanket. That's perfectly accurate.
Right. A cup of tea, nice little fire.
Yes.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, very fall magic vibes.
Yeah. Okay, other question, kind of similar, but I was really curious because definitely you all have some adult titles between the three of you as well. Was there ever conversation about why doing a YA one versus an adult one, or was it just kind of also like, no, this is obviously what we would write?
I think at that point, Sandhya was the only one that had an adult title. That I can't remember, was it already out yet, or was it about to come out?
No, yeah, it hadn't come out yet.
Mm-hmm. And I know Roshani and I were kind of like secretly working behind the scenes on it. I don't know if you guys even knew that I was working on some adult stuff, and I don't think I knew that about Rosh. So for me, it felt very natural that, of course, we're going to do YA because that's what we all knew about each other.
Yeah, definitely. It was, I think right from the beginning, we're like, this is going to be like a teen Halloween like thing that people can go back to year after year during that time of year. It's like we wanted a timeless teen Halloween romance kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, and I am very excited about all of your adult things. We're going to get into some of them in a second. But before we do that, oh my gosh, I just had my question that I was like, I can't. Oh, research process. I have to know. Evelyn, you mentioned this briefly too. And you answered. I was like, okay, she either did a bunch of research on how to make masks. You went to Italy. So yes, you did. But what was the research aspect side of this? And like, what, I guess let's start there. Like what was the research? Did you have to do a bunch of research for it? What was that aspect like?
It was whenever I write anything that has any basis in reality, it's always like 3 parts dream and 2 parts reality. And so it's like, for example, Ash's studio, I came up with what I wanted it to be first. And then I was like, okay, realistically, how can we make this look? And then realistically, what are the things we need to fill it with in order for him to be this kind of artist, you know? And then that's where it was like, okay, this is the kind of paper that the mask maker in Venice was using. Where do we get it? That sort of thing. So I don't know. It's like a fantasy author wish list driven type of research rather than, I know some people go the other way around where they're doing a lot of research and then they decide what goes in the book. And I think for me, I create that character and what I want the character to have. And then I go and find the pieces and see if they fit. And there's this weird kind of magic that happens with writing where when you're looking for something, a lot of times you find exactly what you need and it just works. And you're like, the story existed already and it was just my job to uncover it. I'm like an archaeologist.
Yeah, that's kind of like what Liz Gilbert says in Big Magic. I don't know if you've read that. It's just, she says that like the idea, you know, kind of finds you and you're the only person who can write it. Like, it's so cool. But yeah, so similar for me is like, I definitely like to have some elements in place of the story before I start looking things up. But for me, it was like looking up Pinterest because I wanted to get, like I said, the setting right. So for me, it was a lot of Pinterest inspiration. I think I shared a couple with with Evelyn and Rush in our group chats, but it was that. And then also True is given to just like spouting off random scientific facts, like the exact weight of the moon, which I definitely do not know. So I had to do a lot of research for that too. I was like, do you really have to say that right now? Okay, I guess you do. Off to Google I go, you know? So those were my 2 big bits of research.
Yeah, and this can be either, this is one of my favorite questions to ask, but I know sometimes it puts everybody on the spot. So think about it, but no pressure. But you have to come up with an answer. No. But it doesn't have to be necessarily for 3 Kisses, One Midnight if the first thing that comes to you when I ask you this is one of your other books. But what is the best like Google research rabbit hole you've ever found yourself going down where you were like, how did this happen? Or do I have to like scrub my Google search history?
Ooh, I definitely know I've done some Google searches before where I'm like, that is putting me on some kind of NSA list. Oh yeah, I know exactly what it was. It's for one of my adult titles that's coming up, and there's some like computer hacky kind of stuff, which it's very spoilery, so I can't tell you what it is. But yeah, definitely there was some research on how to do certain things, which you should not be looking up. However, my husband is in cybersecurity and he's basically a professional hacker. So anything I do like pales in comparison to the kind of stuff that he looks up all the time.
Yeah, if someone's coming to your home, it's not for you.
Right? He's going to jail first.
Even if they see your search, they'll probably think it was him. So you're good.
Same IP address.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I don't know if I had any like horrible searches because I haven't written anything, I don't think like that. But I do know for 3 Kisses, One Midnight, Rosh had this really cool idea at the very beginning when we first started talking about the book about like she wanted this gala that Oni's parents host to be like a Midsummer Night's Dream kind of theme. And so I definitely went down a rabbit hole looking at Midsummer Night's Dream themed things. And like, then I started looking up like wedding venues and I was like, I've been married for like 20 years. Why are we looking this up? It was
yes. Our entire WhatsApp chat was just like photos of venues and ooh, what about this decor? Oh my gosh, I remember you found this gorgeous like deep purple lighting and like these candelabras and these like elaborate flower like bouquets and it's like yes, I don't think we even got in that level of detail when we wrote
I
the book.
know, but I was just like, oh my God, look at this, guys.
Oh, and then the masks too, because then it was like, okay, Ash is going to make masks,
Yes.
and he's making masks for each of the characters. What do you guys want? And so then they're
Yeah.
like, oh, I want this. And so then, yeah, that was a whole
Yeah, we looked up a lot of masks. It was really fun.
Okay, hear me out. I know that it's probably too late this year since we're in the like 1 week countdown, but would just a thing to consider for next year, maybe for a paperback release, but Three Kisses One Midnight pop up, where we get to see all of this interest come to life. We get to
Yes, that would be incredible. Oh my gosh.
That would be cool. We should totally do that next year for the paperback.
Yeah, we should recreate the Diamante's like mansion and estate.
Oh my gosh, that'd be so amazing.
I mean, you could consider doing it in St. Louis. I'm just saying.
Right.
Ideas out here. Okay, incredible. I do, and I meant to say this like 6 minutes ago. So everybody watching, I'm so sorry. But if you have a question that you are just really want our amazing authors to answer, please go ahead and put that in the comments. I get them in real time. So I'm happy to make sure that we're asking everything that you also want to know, and that it's not just all of my questions. But in the meantime, I need us to take some seconds away from Three Kisses One Midnight, even though we love it. It's the love of our life now. I know. Yeah. But we have to talk about what else you all are doing, because you have some awesome things going on. So Sandhya, what are you working on right now? / we kind of hinted at this, but like you are also like a romance author. Such a fun romance author. We have some amazing, we have Makeup Breakup, we've got Sizzle Paradox. Like,
yay.
So are you working on a romance right now? What's going on in your life?
So currently I'm actually figuring out what I want to do next. I am in the editorial phase for the third and final book in the Rosetta Academy series, which is my YA. Yeah. So that's going to be really cool because that'll close out that series. And that comes out next summer. But I'm not sure where I want to go after that. I've been having some conversations with my agent and my husband, who's like my unofficial like business manager. And I'm just trying to figure out where I want to go, because I have written like 9 or 10 romances at this point. And, it's kind of like, do I want to keep going down that path, or do I want to dip my toe in something a little different? And some of my readers have been like, oh, you should do this, and they've been giving me lots of different ideas, so I'm just kind of simmering right now.
Well,
you're so talented, you can really do whatever you want.
No,
you're so sweet.
Are you doing a fantasy romance soon? Because I would take it. I take so much of that. Amazing. And Evelyn, you just gave us some big news over on Instagram. If people haven't had a chance to see that, I'll let you talk about it. But basically, we don't even have the book yet, and we're getting a Netflix show. We know that we're getting a Netflix show with Millie Bobby Brown. So let's talk about Damsel and anything else that you want to talk about.
Yeah, so next year is going to be kind of crazy for me. I have 3 books coming out next year. So on March 14th, we get Damsel, which is a fantasy. It's about a young woman, she's 20 years old, who accepts a marriage proposal from a faraway kingdom, which will save her realm, which is starving. And when she shows up, she finds out she's actually going to be sacrificed to a dragon. So that's kind of a big surprise. So that's Damsel, and like you said, it's going to be on Netflix, starring Millie Bobby Brown as the princess, also Robin Wright as the queen, Angela Bassett as Lady Bayford, which I don't think I'm allowed to tell you who she is, Nick Robinson, who is from Love, Simon, and we all love him in the YA world. He is going to be the prince that Millie Bobby Brown marries, and also the one, I suppose, who breaks the news, maybe, that she's going to be sacrificed. I'm not allowed to tell you really things about the plot yet, even though I know there's e-arcs out there, and the book and the movie are very similar, and yet they're a little bit different. So I was on set in London for part of the filming of the movie, so that was awesome.
My eyes got big at the exact same.
I know. Oh my God, this is so cool.
It was funny when I was in London. I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm here researching a book," because it was like totally secret at the time. So that was super fun. But yeah, I have not been involved in the film like for post production, so I don't really know how like the film's going to turn out versus like what I saw when I was on set. But anyway, so that's that. May 2nd, I have Princess Private Eye, which is a middle grade series, book 1 of a middle grade series. It's like Nancy Drew meets Princess Diaries. So a girl, New York orphan who discovers she's actually long lost princess, but she's also a computer hacker, and she's really good at kind of figuring out mysteries. So that'll be fun. And then August 1st is The 100 Loves of Juliet, which is my adult fiction debut. It's contemporary fiction. It is basically a story about what if Shakespeare got it wrong and Romeo never actually died, and then Juliet keeps being reincarnated, and he's doomed to find her, fall in love, and then watch her die over and over again.
Oh my gosh.
My favorite thing
that's
about this
modern.
is that when I went onto your website to just check out what you had on both of your websites, is that Evelyn, you were like, "I'm sorry, you guys haven't had a book for me in a while. Thank you for being patient." And then Evelyn just streams off the books that she's giving us next year.
Here's 3.
I told you there's some coming. You just had to wait.
This is amazing. I love that you are so versatile, that you're doing like movie stuff, and you're doing adult, and you're doing YA, and you're doing, middle grade. It's just so cool to see you. Like, I just feel like sometimes authors who've been doing it for a while, I'm definitely not like telling on myself here, but we get kind of like on the same like path for a while, and it can be hard to see that, hey, you can do whatever you want, this is your career. And I just love that you're out there doing it.
Thank you. I mean, for me, honestly, this past year coming out with 3 Kisses, and then like next year, it's almost a relief to me, because I had a period of time where I wasn't really writing, and I just had some personal stuff going on. I mean, I mentioned my husband had a lung transplant, so like he was sick for a while, so I was just kind of like out of the creative world for a while. And so there was a period of time where I was a little bit worried, like, is there still a career for me? Like, have I lost that kind of like touch? Am I still able to write? So it's kind of like a, hey, I'm back, kind of hoping in a big way.
With a bang. I love it.
Yeah. But also, yeah, we're writers. We know how to write stuff. We can write whatever we want.
Yeah.
Yes. Whatever you give us next, Sandhya, I'm like, I already can tell you I'm all in. Whether it's from Sandhya or Lily, I'll take it. I'm super excited. You got a 3 the mix.
Right.
Sorry,
I never know with me.
If anybody doesn't know, your romances are written under Lily Menon.
Menon, yeah.
They're gonna be like, why did she just say Lily? I also think incredible. Okay, so before we wrap up this evening, I have some. These are just a fun little thing that we do, especially on virtuals. They're this or that questions. They're not difficult. They're not going to make you sweat, but there is one rule, and it is that if you don't like one of the 2 things I've given you, you can reject the 2 things, but you have to provide your actual answer. So, again, they're not hard. I feel like whenever I say that rule, it makes it sound like they're like really intense questions. As evidenced by this first question.
Wait, hold on. We have to establish ground rules. That Sandhya and I have to alternate who goes first, because otherwise it's super not fair if someone has to go first all the time.
That's true.
Listen, I want you to know that nobody has ever established that, and I think that's incredible. And this is exactly, I just see how you were the Google Doc queen.
I was just going to say, you see, she's very organized.
Yes, you see it.
She makes it happen.
Not at all shocked. Okay, incredible. Okay, so who wants to go first this run?
I'll go first this time. And also, we reserve the right to make up answers for Roshani.
Oh, yes.
We do. Make up Roshani's answers, especially the tiebreaker. Yeah. She's going to watch this back and be like, wow, they really went wild.
Yeah, right? It's totally her fault that she's not here, so.
Okay. They're all Halloween themed because.
Yay.
Obviously. Okay. Vampires or werewolves?
Vampires.
Werewolves, because I love dogs.
Well, and aren't you also a Jacob stan?
Oh my gosh, yes. Team Jacob all the way.
Whereas when I was a teenager, I had a vampire sign on my door and I wanted to be a vampire. I was like waiting for Lestat to come and get me.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Incredible. What do you think Roshani would be?
Oh, she'd probably be
gonna-
vampires, like
I was
sexy
gonna say
vampires.
vampire.
Yeah, but I am
Yeah.
going to choose zombies for her because that's like the least Roshani answer.
Yeah. I love it.
All of a sudden, we're gonna like have somebody try to get into this live. It's gonna be like, no.
Yeah, stop.
Rosh
You're ruining
is
my
never, she's
reputation.
never gonna do a project with me ever again.
Awesome.
Okay, pumpkin pie or apple pie?
I'm gonna
sorry,
go
that
with
was your.
apple.
You were supposed to go first.
Oh, that's right. Well, we didn't.
Apple.
You're going apple, Evelyn?
Yeah, I'm going apple.
Pumpkin.
Wow. What do you think?
And Rosh, I think Rosh would be something boozy.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like a rum,
Like
rum something.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
Or
or
what-
like a bourbon
Bourbon
pecan.
pecan?
Oh yeah. There you
It
go.
seems very Georgia because she's in Georgia.
Yeah.
I don't know. Are pecans Georgian? Can we put like something with peaches? Peaches.
Peach pie is a peach
With-
cobbler. Is that a thing?
Yes, with some kind of alcohol.
With like a
Yeah.
bourbon ice cream? Think about like a bourbon
Yes.
vanilla ice cream.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
And gold leaf.
We really workshopped that well. She's got a great answer. Everybody.
I like how mine and your answers, Sandhya, are like boring, but we're like, ooh, for Rosh.
Yeah, right? That would be so creative for her.
I know I should have given you answer for like each other is what I should have done. But
Yeah.
okay, Evelyn, you're first again this time.
Okay.
Halloween Town or Hocus Pocus?
Halloween Town.
And Sandhya, if you say something different than what I think you're gonna say, I'm gonna be so mad at you.
I would say Hocus Pocus.
I was like, you named the car Hocus Pocus.
Yeah, right. Okay. I'm glad that I love Hocus Pocus. I think we even said like we're gonna write this book and it's gonna be like a Hocus Pocus that people keep going back to.
Yes.
Right?
It's like
Yeah.
Hocus Pocus meets Gilmore Girls.
Yeah, that's what we said. Yeah.
That's a great pitch. Makes all the sense in the world. Okay, what would Roshani be?
Hmm.
I don't know.
Rocky Horror Picture Show?
Yes. The Walking Dead. With the zombie theme. Oh, that's awesome.
She's currently like blocking us on her phone.
Yeah.
Right?
She's really good with this. Halloween Town. Do you remember Halloween Town? Yeah. I know we all remember Hocus Pocus. Gosh. I didn't realize I was in the mood to watch it. Okay.
Yeah.
Fine. We're almost out of time. Okay. Are you a cardigan person or a scarf person? But I also don't know that you live in climates that always.
I know it's like October. I'm like still wearing short
I know.
sleeves. I'm in California.
Yeah, lucky. I'm in Colorado, so we're already very cold here. I'm definitely a cardigan person, but it has to be like a big chunky cardigan, like not one of those thin ones, like a real big one.
I am like oversized college sweatshirt.
Oh, love it.
What a great alternative answer.
Yes.
Thank you.
Perfect.
I love it.
Yeah. Okay, final question. And this is going to reveal a lot of things. And I know this is
Oh
the
dear.
hardest one. This might be the hardest one, and I'm sorry. Evermore or Midnights?
Oh.
And are we about to learn that somebody is not a Swiftie?
Yeah.
But what if we make the people mad? What if we say the wrong word?
Yeah,
What
right?
if the right answer
Now I'm
is
worried.
all of them?
Yeah, all of them.
Wow. Absolutely not.
And that's Rosh's answer too.
What? Wow. All of you just being okay. Have you listened to the new one?
No, I have to say I haven't. I'm sure my daughter has, but I'm just not into like this is weird. This is really weird about me, but I'm not into like music. I don't know why. It's like it's too much. I can't like it's too much stimulation for my ears. I can't do it.
I was super excited about the album, and then the last week has just been insane. And so, but I did listen to part of it today as I was driving to school to pick up my daughter. So
Wow.
I get a little bit of credit, partial credit.
And we still have time. She's
And
young.
and we're gonna answer for Roshani. She doesn't even know who Taylor Swift is, so therefore Sandhya and I are better.
she's too busy for that.
Wow, you're just gonna set everybody angry at her. You're gonna get like a and be like, what happened?
Yes,
He's getting,
I'm
like, all
directing
these
the
messages.
wrath
She's
away
like,
from me.
I
Wow, just completely just
We just threw her under the bus for the last one.
oh my gosh, incredible. What a great ending for all of us. I'm gonna hold this up one more time. They're about to throw Emily on this and be like, get them all off the screen. They're done. We are unfortunately, I think, over time. So I'm gonna throw up the book, my copy of my but you two are so amazing. Thank you so much. I think Emily's gonna hop on here and sign us off for the evening, but you're wonderful. This was such a fun
Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you so much. You were so fun.
Watching.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
All right. I just want to thank everyone for joining us tonight. Our authors, Evelyn and Sandhya. That was just such a delight to watch. I also want to thank HEC for producing our event tonight, and to Stephanie and the Novel Neighbor. And just a reminder that there are copies of 3 Kisses, 1 Midnight that you can purchase at novelneighbor.com. So again, thank you all so much for joining us, and have a good rest of your evening.